Thank you, Ciarán. Ciarán, I'm sorry to see that Taoiseach had to go, because I was going to congratulate him on the presidency which he and his cabinet have held for the last 6 months. I was in Brussels recently. I was speaking to MEPs and to officials there who complimented the Irish officials on being very professional. They were talking particularly about the officials in the Department of Finance. And I was delighted to hear that it sounds like our officials have acquitted themselves very well and have certainly earned the professional respect of their counterparts in Europe. So it was great to hear that. I think Minister Coveney has done an excellent job. I'm sorry to see the CAP hasn't been wrapped up, but I think the reforms of the fisheries policy are fantastic. And I think he's acquitted himself very well when we were dealing with various crises and fodder crises here in Ireland as well. I think Minister Noonan has done a good job. I think he's progressed talks on the European Stability Mechanism well, and on the bank resolution mechanism. And as we know, it was never going to be possible for Minister Noonan to get any concrete agreements before the German election. It seems everything is in stasis. And I think within the constraints that the ministers had to deal with, he's done a very good job. I also think Minister Bruton should be congratulated. He has led the opening of incredibly important trade talks with the US, where hopefully we will have an EU-US free trade zone, which will be worth billions of euro or dollars on both sides of the pond, and hopefully will lead to some very serious job creation. So I must say, I think the Taoiseach and I think his team have acquitted themselves very well. I think they should be very proud of themselves, holding the presidency at what has been a very, very difficult time for Ireland and for Europe. Ciarán, the three issues under discussion, as we know, for the last Council meeting, which Ireland will hold the presidency for, are conclusion of the European semester, evaluation of efforts to boost competitiveness, jobs and growth, and progression on economic and monetary union, specifically around the banks. And I'd like to talk a bit about the bank resolution mechanism. Minister Noonan appeared before the Finance Committee recently to talk about the steps he was taking. And I support what he's doing, and I hope he can progress it well. Now, my understanding is that a new system of bail-in, a new bail-in system will be brought in, whereby shareholder capital would be used first, then unsecured creditors, junior creditors, and then senior creditors, senior bondholders, and depositors. If memory serves, Minister Noonan was keen to separate depositors and senior creditors. And in this, I wish him all the best. I understand right now that in Europe, and maybe beyond Europe, that depositors and senior creditors rank equally legally if there needs to be any sort of a bail-in. I don't agree with that. I think it is right and proper and healthy that a legal distinction, a clear distinction is drawn within the Eurozone and ideally across the European Union, whereby professional investors are seen for what they are. They're professional risk takers, and depositors are seen for what they are. Certainly the smaller depositors. They're seen as people who are just trying to put their money in a safe place. And my understanding is Minister Noonan is trying to differentiate those two, and I wish him all the best. I would like to add a caveat, something that I hope that the Minister and the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach can push for. We have a potential danger whereby the first group of people in any bail-in who have to take a hit are the shareholders. For our banks, at least for some of the banks, we are still the shareholder. So I would very much like to see a caveat introduced that said, look, in the normal course of events in a steady-state banking system, shareholder capital should go first. I agree with that. However, for AIB, for the bit of Bank of Ireland we own, maybe for permanent TSB, we, as the shareholders, have already put a vast amount of money in. And if the quality asset test, which will be done by the ECB in the new year, shows that these banks need more capital, that it would not have to yet again come from the Irish citizens, who essentially are the shareholders of these banks. Ciarán, I'd like to address the Anglo Tapes, which have been brought to light and which, of course, dominated leaders' questions this morning and which we're all listening to again and again and again and all getting very angry about. I think this is relevant to the discussion that is going on in Europe about Ireland and about potential recapitalisation. One could look at this as Germans or other creditor countries and say, this increases the case for you not getting any recapitalisation from us. You weren't even able to take care of your own banks. You allowed your banks to deceive you and entrap you. I don't agree with that position. I think and hope that there is actually a very strong message that can go out to our European colleagues that says, look, the Irish citizens took the hit for the entire European financial system. Had we not committed a huge bail-in to keep these banks open, the risk was there would be contagion. I'm not convinced there would have been contagion, but certainly the ECB and many other people believe there would. So we took the hit. We now have the smoking gun. We now have proof that not only did Anglo deceive the government at the time, it actually engaged in entrapment. It didn't just say, let's ask for €7 billion and hope that that's enough and that we can trade our way out of this. What it said is, let's ask for $7 billion. We know it's going to be a lot more, but once they've given $7 billion, they're going to have to keep on giving it to us. I hope that that message strengthens our case for both future and retrospective recapitalisation. And indeed, I would like to see the government bonds, which took over from the promissory notes, examined. Is there now a case to say, look, we know we've turned this into sovereign debt, but really, there was a criminal act going on here, possibly a criminal act going on here. But certainly there was entrapment, certainly there was deception. And is there a case for a negotiation with the ECB where it says, you know what, we're not going to call on all of these tens of billions in sovereign debt? I'd like to conclude, Cathaoirleach, by asking the government to take one other message to Europe for this, our last meeting. There is quite rightly a focus on job creation. The economic evidence shows that the single biggest stimulant of job creation will be deleveraging of household debt. The economic analysis shows that it's only when you deleverage household debt that the business sector begins to invest, and that ultimately is what creates jobs. So I would like, and I'll finish on this, Cathaoirleach, thank you for your patience. I would like the Taoiseach and Minister Noonan and the team to take that message to Europe, to say if you are serious about job creation, if you are serious about helping the youth, we've got to find ways to deleverage household debt. I will be introducing a product and submitting it to the Taoiseach and Minister Noonan shortly, which is a debt for equity product, which I hope would help the situation in Ireland and potentially further afield in Europe. Thank you,
Deputy. Thank you, Deputy.